seemingly in a part of a different reality in which he imagines how he would like things to be and then describes them as if that were reality. So we will see how he is restrained here, but his last salvo on social media, Truth Social, his own social media, was extraordinary and vituperative and went on and on and on, and much of it was all caps, the online equivalent of shouting or screaming. And this was blaming all of the people we've talked about, the judge and the district attorney and so forth. And that would seem to be clearly violative, and we will see if that kind of behavior at least is restrained.
We're here with Ron Elving, senior editor and correspondent for NPR, and Jeffrey Engel. He's founding director of the Center for Presidential History at Southern Methodist University. Let's go back to the phones. We've got Joseph on the line from Long Island. Joseph, you have a question about the jury process. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really curious as to the possibility of selecting an impartial jury. Everybody knows who Trump is.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Good dreamy dreamland. I'm your sensei, Al Bob. So, that was a little thumbnail of what happened on Tuesday with Donnie. Now, Donnie is just a clown. He's just thrown into the mix to distract the general public. And he gave he went back to Mar-a-Lago, his prophylactic, and he basically gave a presidential running speech. And he's getting, again, exactly what he did when he first ran for president in 2016. He said terrible things, which then got the media to give him nonstop 24/7 free, take all the oxygen out of the room representation. And that's what he's going to do this time. Because the Constitution, he could be found guilty for murder. Debs was running for president in the 30s as he was a socialist, and no more a communist than good old Bernie. And he basically was put in jail, and he ran for president while he was doing it. Right, so it's a very interesting time. So this is just one little thing. The thing that I find the most interesting that no one is really talking about is this. So I have no TV, no nothing, but I do have public TV and then late at night, shortwave and the bouncing AM.
Everybody has it because they're all like sisters, and they just want their lives back.
Is there anything that would make you feel safe going back to East Palestine?
Not until there's a lot of independent testing and everybody knows that it's safe and everybody's very transparent about it.
Greg, if you could talk directly to Norfolk Southern or state or federal government officials about cleanup and testing, what would you tell them?
I would ask them to please get everybody out of town until this is completely cleaned up and all the testing's done independently and through the government, and make sure that the right things are being tested for the dioxins and everything, and then give it all clear for people to come back to their homes.
We'll get into more about what's happening around testing in East Palestine after the break. We were speaking with Greg Masher. He's a grandfather and resident of East Palestine, Ohio. Greg, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much.
Also with us is Jessica Connors. She's also an East Palestine resident, and she works with the Justice Community. She's a Justice Community advocate for the town. Now, in a moment, we talk with an engineering professor who independently tested the air and water in East Palestine. We'll learn what he found. I'm Jen White. This is 1A from WAMU and NPR.
Statement that was released on the 31st. They're still claiming that the air is safe and that we'll be fine in the long term. But there's another statement in there about people that have comorbidities such as asthma or COPD might be more impacted, but we don't know when these symptoms are going to go away. We don't know where it's safe to go to avoid these areas, or who has actually been impacted. So it's nice to see things coming out that they are recognizing that we're having symptoms, that there is truth to that, but there's still a lot of questions surrounding that as well.
Andrew, if you were a resident of East Palestine right now, how would you feel? How safe would you feel in the town?
Well, I would be upset, I'll tell you that, having gone in with a team and done sampling and then myself getting sick. I was pretty flabbergasted by the statements coming out by agencies and the fact that I got sick. Then I found out that other people got sick. Pennsylvania Senator Mastriano and his chief of staff got sick just visiting the area. Colleagues at the CDC got sick visiting the area. And so a number of households have told me also that they got sick when going back to work. There were 2 employees that were in the municipal building downtown near one of the heavily contaminated creeks that got sick. But there's something there. And the data that is being presented to the community does not represent what is happening. And so I think that's an issue that needs to be rectified, and agencies need to course correct in how they're testing and sampling to answer very specific questions.
Again, we invited the Federal Environmental Protection Agency and the Ohio EPA to join this conversation, and they each declined to make someone available. Taylor, last week, Baltimore blocked shipments of waste from East Palestine from the spill as it was headed to a facility to be processed. And last month, Oklahoma also blocked any toxic waste from being brought into the state. Explain what's happening.
Has been an interesting part of the story to follow, and I've spoken with Ohio's U.S. senators about it, because what people may not realize is Norfolk Southern is in charge of the cleanup, and they are in charge of locating licensed facilities around the country who they can sign contracts with to say, hey, we're going to bring this contaminated soil or this contaminated wastewater to your licensed facility. What the roadblock has been that local and state governments in other states have been saying, no, we're not interested. We don't feel safe bringing it because, as all the other guests have been outlining, it's still not necessarily clear what hazardous material has been released into the area and what the impacts of it could be. Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, Republican, he told me that Michigan has also been saying no to things, and that's really been delaying the process of removing all of this waste. I checked, and this past Monday, the Governor Mike DeWine's office they've been releasing statistics each day, and there's still over 20,000 tons of contaminated soil waiting to be removed from the derailment site. They have been able to remove another 14,700 tons of that soil, plus 10 million gallons of the liquid wastewater, but it gives you an idea of just how much is still there. And because some of these state governments and local governments are resistant to it, that's what's bringing the federal government in. And the EPA Administrator Michael Regan has said the federal government may have to issue criminal referrals to the states if they're not willing to do what is their legal obligation of receiving this waste if they have the licensed facilities for it. But when you're in East Palestine, it's a pretty stark reminder of just how long the cleanup process is going to take, because you still see this giant pile of soil and you still see workers every single day trying to remove things while they're in protective gear, but while everyone else in the community is trying to go about their daily life.
And Taylor, for people listening in states, some of the states you just mentioned, like Michigan, we're thinking, wait a second, what does it mean to process this toxic waste where I live? Can you give us some insight into that?
So what the government has outlined, at least throughout this process, is that in every state, there are what's called licensed facilities that can accept certain types of hazardous waste when accidents happen, be it a train derailment or something else.
No, these are just 2 little events, just 2. Around the world, there are thousands in Palestine, in Ukraine, hundreds of other war zones. The United States has 900 military bases, and that doesn't mean like an office. It means like thousands of square miles of coastlines and air bases and places where aircraft carriers can come in. We are an imperial force. Now that Scholastic is going on and on and on, and only wants to talk about what Scott Ritter has to say. Scott Ritter is one of the loyal oppositions. He was a Marine. Right? Then he worked for intelligence organizations. He's just like the morons who go, "Oh yeah, they're UFOs," from the CIA. Like, you're really gonna believe anything those morons say? No. So it's not your opinion that counts.
Elizabeth and man on
major backing from the police unions and wealthy developers, real estate developers in the city. On the other hand, Brandon Johnson is a progressive who backs.
I was reporting out the story about the 26 bills that got introduced in 14 states. Many of them, before any other bills had been introduced in these state legislatures, first thing out the gate, drag show bills. What I found was they were very similar, and then in almost every state, a state affiliate of the Family Policy Alliance, a right-wing conservative group that's based in D.C., they were the ones that were behind it. Many groups, different groups in each state, have supported and fought and lobbied for the drag bills, but this was a key central group, and advocates believe.
And this group, who knows what that group is? It's very similar to what happened in Ukraine, and as Ukraine was going along very nicely, in Ukraine trying to be in the middle between the EU and Russia, and not going to be part of NATO. What's NATO? North Atlantic Treaty Organization, right? All of the Baltic states aren't on the North Atlantic. That's first off. And again, this is Mr. Globaloney. It's not America being Mr. Imperialist. You have to realize that America's just a bitch. Mr. Globaloney says jump. The Defense Department say how high. At least back before World War II, we at least called that facility of our military the War Department, because that's all we had. Since Chris Columbus, all we do is kill, kill, kill. And, the Pope put out a thing saying any white people that go into uncharted lands like North America, South America, Africa, and those people aren't Christian, they don't exist. You can take their land, just pay the Pope a little money. I mean, this is, we are heading into quite an interesting time. Now, this time has come and gone millions of times before. Back during the Cuban Missile Crisis, that was an interesting time. We could have truly passed through Mr. Globaloney, but we didn't. We doubled down. 47, after World War II, we could, FDR, he had a guy who was going to be a socialist as president, and he stuck in Harry Truman because he was a Mason. And the other guy just kind of disappeared. But he was one of the reasons why FDR won so many presidential elections as vice president was this, very charismatic, young, brilliant socialist who was going to basically make America, what Sweden is today, and we couldn't have that, right? So here we are, 13 minutes and 13 seconds into the show. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. And how you doing? And so the last two shows we've had guided meditations, and we'll have some of that today too, because virtually, I keep telling you folks, go back and look. I have over 2,000 shows. Go back; they're all there. Just kind of bloop, 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 and just hit one, whatever little. And I don't know. Come on. The subjects of all my shows, this is art. It's not anal retentive trying to be poochie chooch. I'm trying. I'm here to serve love's co-creation, not myself. Right?
What'd I tell you? Phil, Mr. Gulliver. Ralph, son of a bitch. No, gentlemen, please. This is not a good time. Not a good time for what?
Not a good time. It's not a good time. Nope, it's not a good time.
This is not a good time. Not a good time for what? 2 months this took to heal. This might ball their eyes out. I didn't make a sale for months. You're not such a tough guy now, are you? Mr. Golden, do something. Gotta come in, George. I apologize. I'm sorry. If we could just. No!
That's how people do
I
it.
want you to stop.
Right? That's how they do it. They don't put themselves in the other guy's shoes.
Oh, easy, you'll learn. Settle down, George. Now, George, be reasonable. Relax.
Yep. Mueller took him out.
Did you know that in 1979, the Soviet Union had a plan in place to defeat NATO in just 7 days? A swift NATO advance into Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and East Germany would make it difficult for the Soviets to defend their western border. So instead of waiting for a NATO attack, the Soviets planned to go on the offensive. They built up military reserves on their western border, consisting of 18 divisions with artillery support, which would allow for a massive offensive on a broad front, accompanied by nuclear strikes on key targets in West Germany, the Netherlands, and Denmark. The goal was for a large tank army to reach the Rhine in 7 days and the North Sea line within a couple more days. At the same time, the Soviet Navy would cut the Atlantic Ocean in two, preventing the American Navy from sending men or materiel to Europe. Did you know that in 19...
Didn't seem to happen, did it? Again, guys, wake up. Let's see. What was I looking for? Library. Okay, there we go. Your videos. Okay. My good friend, Mayor Baba. Live meditation. No more this Palm Sunday. What's your crack? Can't we just get along? Let love be your guide. Kazo is talking to you. Kazoo, Kazoo, Kazo, Kazoo. I'm talking to you. Right? What are you? Now is the time for grace. What's next? What is a lie? And what is life in grace? Who is here? The news. Love is all. We are off the cliff. Forgiveness. I mean, these are all very good subject matters. You can't find anyone to go and watch, right? So, and they're all shamanic. So the last two I did.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. Here it is, the Irish Day. And, you know, if you're a leprechaun, often it's hard to let go of your ego.
Putin's going
Trump's a
places.
genius, and here's why. Before he left office, he approved a $540 monthly health stimulus for all.
Putin doesn't seem to be particularly rational anymore. I mean, in layman terms, he's crazy. Duty was with Gleb Karakulov, who's a captain of Russia's Federal Guard Service, which is basically responsible for Kremlin's security, for Putin's security. And his duties included providing encrypted communications for Putin, including on his foreign visits. And last October, when Putin was in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan, Karakulov put into action a plan that he'd been plotting for quite a while to escape, to leave Russia, to desert, basically, and to defect. And his wife joined him in Astana with their small child, and he managed to, as he says, divert the attention of his colleagues for a while and basically jump on a plane to Istanbul.
Why did he come to the conclusion that he had to defect?
because he said he could no longer take orders from a war criminal, i.e. Putin, and that the war is basically the genocide of the Ukrainian people. He didn't want anything to do with it. And he also wanted his daughter.
Yep. So that's where we are. And again, Putin is just reading the script, just like the other blab in the stand-up comedian, just like Jojo the used car salesman, just like Carrot Head, just like the non-black black president, just like little boy George, and the big dick, and I did not have legal sex with that woman. Every politician, every character within inside the sock puppet domain of the powers that shouldn't be are corrupt and bought. We have the best legislators money can buy, from president down to dog catcher, and they're all on the same level. Meaning, being president of the United States, or Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, or whatever he is, a prime minister, or Larry Blair, or any of that, they're on the same level of power as the dog catcher, right? So, here's 21 minutes and 21 seconds into the show. There's two of you there. One thumbs up. Thank you very much. How about some comments on the other comment thingamajig? How about, got any questions for me? I had a really nice conversation with Bradley the other day, and he opened his heart, and Fish came on and was empathetic, as she always is, and straight to the core. And I was there, as I am right at this minute, bathing you in shamanic prana light of unconditional forgiveness and love, right? I'm, you're simple. I'm not a shaman. I am a shamanic teacher. That is a griot. I tell you stories, right? And as I tell you the story, you kind of go into state, because I'm putting out this energy while I'm telling you the story. Right? And I was telling you a story about when I was my high school experience. First, I was sent off to be going to a seminary to be a Catholic priest, right? And it's a place called Canterbury in New Milford, Connecticut. And I'm still, I was at a rainbow gathering 30 years, right? And one of the things I liked about rainbow gatherings is it's not the partying, but the music, and not the big, out there in the meadow, thousands of people jumping around naked. No. What I really liked was all the little camps that had their little fires and had their cup of coffee and maybe some little sweets, and you would bring something to that, right? And I would always bring me and my hammock and a few little sweets, and I'd read people's palms. I'd put them on the hammock and balance their chi, things of that nature, to keep a homeostasis of the gathering, right? But what I loved most was telling stories around the fire, and basically not telling a story unless I was asked to, right? But listening to other people's stories, right? And so we're sitting there at this campfire, and so people are telling their stories about grammar school and high school, and I tell how I got murdered by a Nazi nun in first grade, and then reborn, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, by a group of Maryknolls and they have sanctuaries. They don't have church. Well, no, they don't have churches or schools or seminaries. They have sanctuaries, right, to come and get healed. So so I was, and then I had a great third grade to eighth grade. It was great. I had great friends. And then my mom sent me up to a seminary because it was time for me to be tutored in what my godfather, Cardinal Cushing, wanted me to be, a rocket scientist for the Pope. Right. So I went to the school, Canterbury, and it's in New Milford, Connecticut. And it's when I was there, it's a very sick place. I had this thing called bagging, where basically seniors and juniors could rape, pillage, um, haze, torture the freshmen and sophomores. And there was only 30 seniors and only about 40 juniors, and there was about 120 sophomores and about 360 freshmen. Right? It was pretty obviously by the time if you didn't survive sophomore year, you were thinned out. And there were priests there that were sexually abusing altar boys right in front of the school. I mean, kind of, in a little corner over there. Anyway, I mean, it was a sicko place, and I had experienced some pretty violent things, but I, survived them, and they made me stronger. And I was really surrounded by unconditional love of my grandma and other adults, and they were part of a community that supported all the young people below them, helping them step up rather than giving them a handout. Right, and so that's not what's happening now. We're basically in a, as Homeboy says, we're in a prison planet, right? And we have been. This is a prison planet. We were in the Garden of Eden, but when we were in the Garden of Eden, everyone got along. We were all our relations, right? The lions didn't eat up Adam and Eve. Everybody kind of got along. Adam and Eve and the lions and tigers and bears, oh my, kind of went on a nice evening walk with God. And everyone was in love, and it was all great, right? Garden of Eden. But we weren't in heaven. We weren't our spirits. We were in a corporeal form, right? So, we were in our avatars. So why were we in avatars? What was the story about us having to be in avatars, right? That's a very interesting story. And it is kind of goes to the plane of God being the burning bush, right? And Moses said, why should I help you, burning bush? Who are you? Right? I am, meant God, I am a work in progress. And you, meaning human beings, are my reflection. And that's where we get, we were made in the image and likeness, right? So, what's the story of all of that? If you read the Old Testament, it's in there. And that's what it is. It's a coded story. When I met the old crone, I was reading an old Gaelic bardic Nordic version that came from Greece. It was Greek Orthodox, right? And it was what Jesus wrote when he was on his way to France, right, to make the Merovingian kingdom. And he went from where he got whacked on the thing, and then that he was supposed to have lunch with the head rabbis and the political people, and he threw the guys out of the money changers out of the temple. And that's when they said, "Oh, he's not going to be our poster boy. We got to get rid of him. He's the real deal. We got to get rid of him." I knew the story that he had. There were like hundreds of little boxes you had to check off to say that this guy was the God, the second coming, right? And not a proper child, right? And so basically he's picking them up, bang, 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 bringing back from people from the dead. But there were people like Magic Max doing that. There were people doing miracles, but they were more sleight of hand. They were more like 3-card monies, right? And Jesus was the real deal. He was a Messiah. But see, he's the Messiah because he's always been the Messiah, because he is God. Daddy isn't separate from Junior, right? And that didn't work out too good, because we had Satan, and he was, the first one, the beautiful one, the illuminated one, the most holy one, the guy who ran the show for God. God was, busy, picking a lint out of his navel while Satan was running the show. And he said, "Well, I need to get more cred for this." And that's where the disagreement came from. So Jesus was, basically Satan and Jesus are twins. Now, don't believe a word I say, right? This is just something out of my griot head, right? This is something out of my Shakespearean mode, my Greek temple of the oracle, of Delphi. So don't believe a word I say. I'm just a storyteller. And no one seems. There's not a single comment. I just said some pretty strange and things that would usually rile people up, have them jump up and down, but they don't. Because no one can basically. And I go to 3 churches every Sunday. I go to the Ku Klux Klan Baptist Church, Southern Baptist Church. I go to the I Own Everything Methodist Church, and I go to the which was born into the pagan Roman Catholic Church, right? And I was schooled to be a priest. I wasn't I'm schooled by Marino, not the Franciscans and Jesuits who own that Canterbury, right? So I'm going to swing. I'm going to cut my jib in naval term and go back to that story of the rainbow gathering when I'm sitting around the fire and I'm telling the story. Are you Al? Of course, everyone knows me. She goes, no, are you, 3 a.m. bells in the night, Al, from Canterbury? And I go, whoa. And this is 30 years later. And this girl's quite attractive. She's about 28. And maybe somewhere between 24 and 28. And I go, well, yeah, I guess that's me. She goes, I went to Canterbury. I said, but that wasn't seminary. So, well, it's changed. It's just for Catholic people. That's pretty much what it was. Anyway, she goes, you're a legend. 30 years later, and they actually have a holiday that they. When you guys try to beat up the seniors, we have we don't do that anymore, and we don't have bagging, or they don't have slaves, and we don't have, you got rid of all of that. I said, really? Oh, that's pretty cool. Anyway, we became a thing right away. She moved from that side of the fire, and she was with some hipster dude, and she just came sitting right next to me. Says, I got some good bones here. So we started smoking, Anyway, so she started braiding. I had long hair. She started brushing and braiding my hair, which is that's the sign. I mean, just ask, what's his name? The guy with the long hair. Samson? I think so. She was my Delilah. So anyway, I mean, right then, bang, right? So I said, where's your camp? She goes, well, I was staying with that dude. I was just kicking around the country and heard about the Rainbow Gathering and came here with some people, and they're real jerks. So I just was walking around, and then I kind of came into that guy, and he's got really, he's got nice gear and nice car, and he has food that he doesn't really share with anyone, and he's kind of a jerk. But I've been living off him. So okay, that's what I said, well, come on. And so I took her way up in the hills to my healing temple, which you could barely hear the drums, right? And she goes, wow, this is in Vermont, right? And then I had been a scout, so man, I knew all of those mountains, and I wanted to do it in New Hampshire, in Mount Moosilauke on the other side of Dartmouth. And Dartmouth was going to gave us 10 grand to prepare the site, and it was an unbelievable site. Not quite as unbelievable as the Ithaca site, which I was the main facilitator. I was the Swami Mami of that site. And I was, after that, I said, I'm going to try being a scout. So I, was a scout with 7, 8 people who just roamed the East Coast for, and it's hard to find a place, national forest on the East Coast. So anyway, we were doing that. I mean, they are. New York State was the hardest because they don't have any national forests or parks because it's the Empire State. So anyway, and it was still seed camp. The gathering hadn't started, and I had gotten to my place where I'm happy to be a scout, happy to be a seed camp guy, happy to be cleanup, but running the gathering. No, all I'm going to do is go visit the kitchens and adjust people and be somewhat of a negotiator of quarrels, but I'm not going to run, and I'm not going to be Shantasina. I'm not going to be. I'll go to calm and be there late at night, where there's nothing really happening. I'll be there at 10 a.m. So if there's anything in the morning that needs my dealing with. But otherwise, everyone knows I go to all the kitchens in the morning to have breakfast and to take care of all the cooks and helpers, right, in their camp, right. I bring my hammock, put them on there, and my tarp so they can be cool. And I have my magic spritzers. I was a scentologist, and so I had different, peppermint and licorice and witches, you name it. I'd spray it in the air. They breathe it in. Tea tree oil. It would clean people out. So, and it was very slight. You weren't really you weren't even giving them something to ingest. Just it was in their environment. There's a term for scentology. It'll come to my mind. Anyway, so this girl and I became a thing. She was my rainbow sweetie, right? And she really loved because I was just. I mean, people like my sister gets really upset because I don't dress up. Right? How could you? I'm in my 70s. Anyway, and she's been upset with me since when I was 16, and I lived with Allen Ginsberg, and I lived in a beautiful apartment in Lower East Side, and I took her to our Friday night salons where all of the beats were, and she always wanted to be a poet, and she was there. She didn't last, Andy Warhol was there, and Allen Ginsberg, well, he's my roommate, and Timothy Leary was trying to get her high, and she basically, because she spent her whole freaking life under the nuns' tutelage. She went to the Harvard of Women's Catholic Colleges, Trinity in D.C., and she was at Columbia getting her master's, but she had a job in Wall Street, and this was 1968, 69, and she was making $30-something a week and living in my parents' linen closet. And I bought, and I would come home every Friday because the apartment they lived in was like a castle, and they had, it was like a hotel. You walk, there was a lobby. There's, the guy at the thing. If you had your packages, they'd send them up. Once you came in, they had a service elevator and they had an elevator for the people who lived there, and it was gold. And it was a Otis, brand new, 1960 something elevator. You just push the button, but they had an elevator operator. Right? And they also had a back door that went into the service hallway that went to the service. So anybody who came to fix stuff didn't come up the same elevator as you. And every one of these apartments above the 18th floor had a little room right off of that hallway for your maid. Right, that's where my parents put my grandma, and they made my sister stay in the linen closet. So, and they had a laundry that there was, and where the maid was, it was like a little phone, and there were buttons. Right, you could hit a button for the lobby, you could hit a button for the laundry. Right. And there was this little thing of papers that had all what you wanted, how many shirts you had, they were starched or any of that. So Friday I would come home. First thing I do, I had all my stuff in a laundry bag, and I had taken a number of these slips and filled it out, put it in the bag, went, kissed my mom, put the bag there, hit the button for the laundry, and said, "Hey, it's laundry pickup, at 23B," and so they would come and get it. And then my grandma would be there. I'd help her cook. I'd slice the garlic real thin. I would brown the beef for meatballs, and I would help grandma cook. Right, and my mom would be baking. I'd help. She was the baker. My grandma was the cook. I was the helper, and I would try to get them because once they were on the same wavelength, they were great together. But otherwise, my mother really looked at my grandma as the other grandma, and she hated that. And so, I mean, I could say grandma, but not my mother. I mean, I was, but she, but my mother could never say mother, and that's what grandma would say to my mom. Just say mother. She wouldn't do it. She didn't want to give her the tone of respect. So there was a thumbs up, and someone took it down. Really? Okay. So anyway, that was what I grew up in. That kind of, and again, that was like ostentatious wealth. Like my father wanted to be a millionaire, so he lived in that place because everyone was a millionaire. So, um, and he could, I live in, the Imperial House. That's what it was called, right? And it was great. There were three really great. There was a steakhouse, a Japanese steakhouse, and a Brazilian. There was no one knew what Brazilian food was, but they had a Brazilian because they had a Brazilian investor in this building, and so they had a Brazilian steakhouse, three steakhouses, and you could go eat there. You lived there, and they would give you the bill, and you would just sign it and put your apartment number on. And there was $300 worth of food, whether you ate it or not, was on your monthly thingamajig, right? So my father's, the rent per se for that place was about $600 in 1969, right? And so, but that included $300 worth of food from many of those restaurants. My parents never ate in them. I would eat them all the time. I would take girlfriends there, right? Everyone knew my name. Oh, Double Doctor. Right? I was like 16, Double Doctor, right? So anyway, that's the kind of life I had. And I didn't even think about it. God just gave it to me. Right? And I was the innocent, lucky bastard for God, the artist in the first person. I just did, how high, you want me to jump, God? How high, right? And I was not, a liturgical Catholic. I learned all that stuff. I learned how to read Greek and Latin, and Hebrew. And, but, all of my teachers were so, my godfather was a cardinal. So I was exposed to not the schmo that I was tried to be murdered by that first grade Nazi nun. And she was a Nazi, right? And she came from the rat line through the, the papal, the Vatican got 1 million Nazis out of Germany as the war was ending, Hail Hydra, and sent them all around the world. That movie, Boys from Brazil, Hail Hydra. So, and this is what the culmination right now, in the next 30 seconds. Oh, I'm looking at my watch. And that's 30 seconds to the next, before 2040. The whole CDBC, centralized digital banking currency, right, will be in place. And there will be the, not the United Nations, but the Federation. Right? And Russia, after the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union is their version of the Stalinist obstructionist version of the United Nations, right? But the Federation, Russia's Federation, right? So they have lots of, like states in there that they all hate each other, right? And so they're not going anywhere soon, right? So, oh, let's see. What the UV is. It's a nice little breeze. I got out of the sun. Ooh, moderate 5. Yesterday was 7. High. Anyway. So, how about some likes? Let's get some likes. It was pretty interesting. There was a couple of likes there a while ago. No one's commenting, but there's 3 of you there. So, He was the head of NERF, New England Rainbow Family. He had nothing, the Ithaca gathering was not a but it was a Grateful Dead show in Boston, and the gathering was going to be like Nevada or someplace, and they were going to go right on 91, right through Ithaca. And so I got hornswoggled into doing a regional gathering, and there was no real place to do it. So, and all these people invited they were very bourgeois people from Ithaca, white. The Rainbow Gathering is very white and very bourgeois. Even if you're a road dog, they're bourgeois. And so they were tripping on acid and went to National Gathering and then went to the council and invited everyone, so you guys are talking about here. So when you're traveling from that Grateful Dead on 91, come visit us and we'll have a nice place for you to rest, right? So they invited everyone, and then a friend of mine took me to this meeting at this woman's house, and they were all screaming at each other, right? And because they all had businesses and families and kids, and were professors at Ithaca College, and they made a promise under the auspices of being stoned on acid, and now they take our children away. I'll lose my job. If all these hippies descend on Ithaca, because Ithaca is unbelievably bourgeois. So anyway, I walk in with this guy, and they all turn to me, and she goes, her name was Cam, and she goes, "Is this the guy?" And my friend goes, "Yep." And she goes, "I can sense that we're here at this meeting representing the New England Rainbow Family. Put this guy in charge of facilitating although to the greatest Cam and her sister and a friend of theirs, Louise, basically said, 'Don't worry, we'll help you.' And they're very attractive. I was in my 40s, and these girls were in their 30s. And so one was married. Cam was married, had a really nice husband who was like an insurance salesman. She worked at Ithaca College as an adjunct, and she had 2 kids. And the other 2 were really very sweet, both musicians, right? And both girlfriends, right? So we were sisters, right? And, I said, okay, so let's figure this out. So let's make a list of all the things we need to have again. Space, okay? National Forest. And one said Garno National, New York State. That's why I say Empire State. There are no national forests or national parks or national anything. Said, "Oh, will that be a problem?" She goes, "Well, we have regionals at friends of ours' farms, and they took me. They said, we'll show you one place that we might be able to do that." So we took the road out towards Seneca Lake, and there was a place called Wisdom Overton, which was a Paul Brunton, who wrote the Wisdom Overton. He was a professor at Cornell, and he, in the '60s, put together a commune, a theologic list, not based on any singular belief, but on theological understanding. So that went on, right? And it was quite interesting. So we went there, and it was like 500 acres, and it was on this beautiful slope, and it had a beautiful pond, ducks, and it had a little pond, and a little stream. And that went down to Seneca, and I was looking around, and I said, so where are we going to put the shitters? And they go, shitters? I said, yeah, strip trench. We thought we'd get porta johns. I said, well, like you said, it was 100 and 200 people, not a problem. But all of the Rainbow families coming from, upstate New York at a Grateful Dead concert, and they're going to, what if 10,000 people? Oh, I like this. I'm going to stay here. I don't want to drive all the way to the west, right? And their cars break down, and they start throwing garbage. Where are you going to go? On this place? You want your nice little, spiritual retreat to be destroyed? And you go, I said, right, you haven't thought about this at all, have you? And they go, So I said, I'm, this guy named Yao. He's the chief of the Iroquois Nation. I've been talked into being his driving Miss Daisy because the Iroquois Nation is negotiating with the federal government because, in a year and a half, the lease they signed with the Dutch puts 3/4 of New York State back in the hands of the Iroquois Nation. And that's never going to happen. But so I drive him up to Syracuse once or twice a month, right? And that's a good 3-hour drive. So, I can reach this and see what he thinks, right? And so I was like his grandson, and his son, who really was the chief, grandfather David was the titular spiritual, political. This guy had Jews, and that's why his son was. And his son was a really good. Hey, there she is. I'm covering. Okay, sorry, covering the microphone. Okay, there we go. I'll put it there. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, I mean, they're just. I mean, you can't even see the microphone. They're these little dots. They look like, I have food bits that are part of my computer now, and they look more like a microphone than the microphone. So anyway, I said, so David, he says, I heard you're facilitating this thing called Rainbow Gathering, and I know what they are, and my brothers have had them, and there's good and bad of that family. I said, no kidding. And I said, so if we were going to do one here, where could we do it? He goes, well, you can't do it in New York State. It's the Empire State. We go to court every day. You see, it's the Empire State. And I said, yeah, but how about the nation? You are a nation, right? Doesn't the nation of the Iroquois own some property that's, outside the realm of? And he goes, let me think on that. So we're driving, we're listening to powwow music, and so he goes, you're right. We do have lots of property. That is our nation, and in fact, we have a parcel of land. He goes, where Wisdom's Goldenrod is? I said, yeah. I went and looked at it. He goes, yeah, I heard. And they have 500 acres. We have 8,000 acres in one stand that has a pretty big lake and a big stream, and it's pretty flat, and it has 400-acre meadows, because they had cows. And I said, oh. And I said, so when we come back, he goes, well, when you drive back, stay at my house, and tomorrow I'll go show you the property. And we did. And he showed me the property, and it was about November. It was before Thanksgiving. And it was beautiful, right? And the each 400 acres meadows, they would have one. I mean, one would have cows on it. The other two, they laid fallow and let just the grass grow up, and then they mow it and turn it into bales and keep it for the winter. And the other, kind of had a forest around it, so it's perfect, right? So the one that had a forest around it would be great for the bus village, because it was small. It wasn't 400 acres. There was another 400 acres, but it was way on the other side where the lake was, right? Which would make great camping. That could be the spiritual dancing. So I'm just looking, boy, this will work. And so it was the big 91, and you got off an exit that said Seneca Lake, and you got on this county road, and you went about 12 miles, and then there was a farm road. There was 2 gas stations. One was a really pretty big general store, and the other one was, a place that had a restaurant in it and a gas station. I think it was a Mobile and a Sunoco, but owned by the same guy who's the mayor of Watkins Glen, right, where the big racetrack is, right? So, he shows me all this, and I go, okay, so who's in charge? Who should I talk to? And he gave me a big list of names. And he said, I'm going to call them all and tell them about you. And I think it would be good. They have breakfast that sometimes I go to. on Wednesday. I said, so that's tomorrow, right? Because Monday we went to court. Tuesday he's showing the property. Wednesday, he goes, yep. And I said, so again, sleep at. He goes, you know what? And he took me to a camper that was on that side. He goes, we'll stay here and drum for the night. It's going to be a nice, beautiful, clear night. It's only going to be about 38, and nice and warm. We'll have a nice fire, and we can talk and we can suss on what to do and ask the Great Spirit. I said, sounds like a plan, Dave. I never said that, David. Grandfather David. I'd say grandfather, father, David. Those are my how I addressed him. I called him Dave. He would not like to lose his id. I know a lot of Davids, and none of them like losing their ids. So anyway, next day, so we basically get our camp together, get the firewood together, get everything ready, and then we go to those gas stations, right? And we go into I see the general store, and it's a big, like a truck stop gas station, right? Ford trucks, and because even though it was a county road, it was right off 91, and it was a road that you would take over to get onto 77 or 72 or 95 if you kept going on that road. So, or 40. So it was a big county road, not 4 lanes, but 2 lanes, but with wide shoulders and well paved and well on. And so this gas station made a lot of money. We had the truck guys, right? And then next to it was a gas station for cars, but a nice little restaurant, right? So I go in, we look at that. He's talking to the lady, and he introduced me. He says, so this lady is the daughter of the man who owns this. And the man who owns this owns the bank. And her uncle, her father's brother, is the mayor. And her other uncle is the county executive. So this whole family has owned this, everything. And they're married into my family too, right? And so, because everybody is, right? Everybody in upstate New York was, my Uncle Leo was a Mohawk. So anyway, I, meet her and say, and I'm telling her, I said, I'm going to come back and show you because I'm a demographer. And 3 years ago, at the West Virginia gathering, there was, very similar set. There was 66 and County Road. I went into the main road into West Virginia from 66, from the northwestern side, northeastern side, all the way to the Capitol, right to 77. And so I made a demographic study and showed this is how much money they made before the gathering. This is how much money they made during the gathering. That month and a half of during the gathering, they made $6 million, which was more than they had made in the last 3 years up until that time. And I have all the police reports. There wasn't a single theft in that store. And so the lady looks, when I came back and showed it to her, she was like, oh, it's pretty interesting, right? And so, basically, I rummaged through my car and found that information and took it to our meeting on Wednesday the next day, right? So she sent us over to have dinner on her nickel at that nice restaurant, right? And so we did, and we talked to the other, and her father came in, and I talked to him, and he was saying, my daughter told me that you, and I said, yep, and we're going to have this meeting tomorrow with you and your brothers and everyone else who's in power in this county. And Trumansburg was the county, and I think that's also the county seat was Trumansburg. Anyway, but he says, yes, this is quite interesting. I said, this is a good business thing for you. I said, this group is as white as you can get. It's as bourgeois as you can get. They may, look like hippies, but they're not really. They're just pretending. I said, you're just a little bit, you were a hipster, right? A 1950s hipster. He goes, yeah, I was a mod. I said, mod, he says, yeah, I was in England. Really? And so we had this great conversation about England because, I'd lived in London. Told him that I lived in a little apartment in Paddington Station. He laughed hysterically. Anyway, right off the bat, hit it home run with the guy who owns the bank, right? And David's like his, he's known him his whole life since grammar school. So, because David looks as white as you can, he's got blue eyes. He looks Dutch, right? So, and that's why they're kind of in the same family. They've been there for the last 300 years. That DNA, right? So, I have the girls meet us at that gas station where we have breakfast with David. And they get there early, and I show them the site, and they're just mind. I didn't even know this was here. I said, "Yeah, and your place is just right over there, right?" So, and they had been there for 20 years since they were going to college at Ithaca College, anyway, and Cornell. So, so we again have a very nice breakfast with a manager of that place and the guy who's he just happened to be there, and I introduced him to it. And these girls are really dressed up nice, like not suits, but flowered children clothes, but new, clean. They made them themselves and they're shapely ladies in their 30s. This guy is like, whoa. And they're all well educated. One's a lawyer, right? So that's the motif. So we then all get in his nice big car and drive into Trumansburg and talk, and then we go to this meeting, and I meet everyone there, and it's all nice. And he brings some nice baked goods because that restaurant has a little bakery. So he basically gets me the 4-1. We give them the 4-1. This is what we're going to do. This is what we expect. And we can do this because Grandfather David, who's here, has given us his blessing. So legally, there's not much you can stop. But I defer to Mr. Banker here. And he said, well, he showed me all this. And I said, and I have all the details right here. He goes, we will make more money because that's where Watkins Glen Racetrack is, right? And that's their number one economy. And they have gigantic concerts there. And he said, we will make as much money as 2 major concerts or 4 major races. And it'll all be over there. The city of Trumansburg, all of that. It'll be in a really isolated place. It won't cost us a nickel. Whereas when we have the the concerts and the racetrack, and when we have the races, there's 500,000 people. The police, overtime, all of that is expensive. This won't cost a nickel, and will make close to $10 million. The whole county will. Right? He's going to make maybe $6 million, but so. It's like a done deal, right? And I'm wearing my nice suit, right? And the girls are right, and so we're talking and we're schmoozing, and I go, and I read all their palms, which really kind of blows their minds. And I then, because at that point I was a kinesiologist, I said, here, stand up, and I muscle test them, and I just hit them a few little bumps on the thing, put them in a nice chair, take their shoes off, and have the girls massage their feet. They were like, oh. So we were in, right? And so I would go, those guys, every Wednesday would come to that gas station that had the nice restaurant. We'd have breakfast, and I'd give them a little report and a little of this and a little of that. And they would so they brought the guy who was the head of the state highway patrol for that area, the sheriff, right? And the chief of police of the city. The guy the sheriff ran the jail, but his guy who would be dealing with people who got arrested, the hospital guy, the EMT guy, the fire services guy, right? And the state forest service guy, right? And the water guy. They all came because they were all kind of located in Trumansburg, right? So they would come every Wednesday, and we'd have a great breakfast, and the banker would treat us all. And very early on, like the second time, we just all had that next Wednesday, we had a meeting there. And Grandpa had this nice little trailer. So I said, I'm going to leave my my domicile because I am done with Ithaca, all that I was doing for Ithaca, and I'm going to focus this. I mean, Ithaca is still my hometown. Ithaca was like New York, right? I have great stories of Ithaca, being a research analyst there for all these different entities at Cornell and getting involved in all kinds of amazing things there. And I mean, that's how I met David Yarrow and took him to court, right? Because I'm always there and I'm always willing to be part of it without expecting to get anything back, right? And that's how to have a truly meaningful life, to be involved without asking or expecting anything back, It's nice if you were to throw something in PayPal. Yes, I kind of checked it out. It still works. DudeAwake42@gmail, right? Want to talk to me? Got any issues, any problems? DudeAwake42@gmail. And Fish, our friend, Dr. B, he really, really, really appreciated what he got from you, right, the other day when we were doing a guided meditation. I talked to him last night. He got a hold of me at the DudeAwake42@gmail, and I called him back, and we talked for about 2 or 3 hours. And he has basically that hurt that you saw. He has gotten past that. I mean, it'll always be there, but he's now in a place where he can learn from it and experience it in the most positive ways. At the end of our conversation, he was no longer a damaged person. And that's what this show's about. This is what I'm here to do. So if you want to make a comment here, and Brandon was very brave to do so, and that energetically really made that show quite interesting. It was one of the last 2 meditative shows. And that's what I'm here to do, right? Tell you stories, right? So there we're moving along. So it's still, not even Thanksgiving yet, and this has all occurred in about 2.5 weeks, right? Not even Thanksgiving yet. And so I moved there. I found a beautiful healing temple, and I got I've been working at contracting for different firms. So I have this contractor's truck that has all the tools, all the everything. So I have the little wires with little flags on them, and I start laying out in magic markers saying, Kitty Village, Loving Ovens, and I start laying things out, and it's just coming together amazingly. And about our 3rd meeting, the guy who is from the state, water board, he came and he spent a really beautiful 3 days. I put him, I made my healing camp, so I had a nice tent, and I put him in that, and it was like, end of almost December, and it was really beautiful. Hadn't snowed yet, and we walked all over the place, and we were looking. He was really knowledgeable. He was a geologist and a water table guy, right? So he had this book of all of where the water is in the counties, right, in that part of New York State. And he said, because of the Finger Lakes being the big drain, and that this is on top of a hill, all the water and everything around here is slate, meaning underneath that nice dirt that grows really good grass for cows is slate. So all the water just goes. So he goes, there's really nothing. And the road that we were on was called Dry Run, meaning no one built any time because you couldn't, if you drilled a well, no water. So on our 3rd little party, we're having breakfast, and we're going over how I'm doing and what's going on. I have a nice little checklist, and I'm writing it down and Xeroxing everything. Everyone gets double, everyone's in the loop. Everyone, there is total transparency, and all of these guys are loving it because all of the buzz of the Rainbow families that they're scumbag, criminals, cheat, lie, steal, terrible people, right? But they're saying me and the girls, no, we're like angels, right? And we're going into their houses and talking to their kids. And the guy who was the sheriff, he had some issues with his kids, and I said, give them to me, And so he drove out there, and just dropped them off, right? I was waiting for him because I had like the county sheriff's CB, their private little phone line. And I could talk to them any which way, right? And the fire guy too. I could get channel A, B, C, right? A, police, B, fire, C, hospital, right? And so, and we made that line of communications, and I had this little, I could do it, right? So, we talk at that meeting, and he's telling me, and everyone, most of it is about, so there's that core group of 8 guys who own and run everything and basically are related to each other. One family runs Trumansburg. And then all the people who were hired and went to college and studied it. So the girls dealt with them. I dealt with these guys, right? And sometimes we'd switch. But mostly that's kind of what it was, right? And so those guys were just telling me their personal issues, not anything with what we were doing, but because they had gotten so comfortable with talking to me about stuff, because that's my spool and trade. And so, this one guy said, yeah, I have these 2, they're twins, and they're just terrible. I mean, they're now getting teenagers, and, I'm freaking sheriff. What can I do? They're just, I said, drop them off with me. So he does. I said, you don't drop them off. You have one of your sheriffs come, right? And I said, have they done anything recent that could be considered criminal? Because they do that every day, right? I said, well, have one of your sheriffs come when you're there, like they're going to go up to, when do they skip school all the time? And he goes, yep. And he said, they have breakfast. They act like they're going to school, but then they go get in trouble. So he said, good. Okay. That's a perfect time. You have one of your sheriffs come, that he knocks on the door. They walk in. He says, stand up. They stand up, have him handcuff their hands behind their back, perp walk them out to his car, put him in the back seat where they can't get out, have him drive him here. And I knew half the police. The police were already starting to come by and hang out. These guys who would like hurt their shoulder at this. I had my healing temple, my table, my hammocks, and the firemen and the people at the hospital and the police and the highway patrol all would come by and then take me out to lunch. And whoever else was there, because there were a lot of kids from Ithaca College and from Cornell who really got into, and they were studying, urban renewal and blah, 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 and environmental sciences. Anyway, so this was all going on, and I'm having a great deal of fun and not having to deal with, people like Colonel Sanders and Grandpa Cockroach and all of the ilk that are coming in, the cockroaches. Now, these were great people, right? And so about the 4th week, I'm out there with the geologist and some kids and he's teaching them, he's like really getting off on teaching these college kids about all of this, and they're studying it. So they're getting off on really, dealing with a guy who really does it instead of their stupid professor. So anyway, so we look at it and there's nothing there. So then next Wednesday, when everyone's together and that guy's there, I go, it's all coming together great. And one big problem is there is no water, period. And the guy who, runs, he's not the mayor, but he runs the racetrack and he has all the ancillary things. So there is really, and this is a Finger Lakes, great water. Where there's water, it's great water. So he has a bottling company, right? Makes, spring water. And he goes, we have these trucks, 27,000 gallons, stainless steel, food grade, that we bring to the races, because where that racetrack is, they too have issues with water. And so, we have 500,000 people show up there. Even if we had it hooked up to the county water line, the county doesn't have enough water, right? So what we do, we have these food grade stainless steel trucks, 27,000 gallons. We keep 3 of those things and hook it up to the water system, and it works, right? And when it gets low, we bring another couple of trucks in. So we have a fleet of these trucks, about 20 of them. We can put one of those trucks, 27,000 gallons, on your site. That should be more than enough of water for, and you only have about 20,000 people for maybe 2 weeks, and we can bring a truck every day if we have to. And then he goes, and we can lay out pipe. I said, well, Pop, he says, yeah, you showed me the map and you're laying out all these kitchens and Kitty Village and the Center for Alternative Living Medicine. We can put water right at each of those places. And I'm going, really? He goes, oh, yeah, we got miles of black PVC water. We guys who are like, you lay it out, we'll put it down in a day. I go, really? Yeah. We have outdoor sinks, really? Yes. Because not only that, we have outdoor, at the racetracks, we have showers, right? So we have mobile showers. We could drop 2 of our, trailers that each have 7, one for guys, one for girls, showers. Really? Because not only that, we can put in temporary septic systems, and instead of slit trenches, we'll have porta-johns that go into these tanks. Really? He goes, yes. I go, really? He goes, yes. And so what's that going to cost? He goes, you're making us money. The better we can make this, the more money we're going to make. And these guys are businessmen. This is how businesses run. This is capitalism. They understand this. Not like, oh, dirty hippies, no, kill, rape. So that's how that gathering was. You came, unbelievably, you drove off the interstate 12 miles, paved, beautiful county road, dry run. Had a big sign saying, Rainbow Gathering, dry run. They were there. And it was truly amazing because the county came in and rehabbed that whole road, put in culverts. The first half mile was paved, and then they put in, a crushed run and bluestone. It was beautiful, right? They put down bluestone, oiled it, put down the crushed run, rolled it, put stone over that, and oiled that, and then put more bluestone on top of it. It was like an amazing road, right? And then where parking lot was, that first strip of like football field size, they did the same thing. So you came in and there were people who helped you, almost concierge. You had a place where you could drop all your stuff off. And then it went up to where, and we just parked the cars, right? And we parked it backwards. The first people in, well, we had a whole line of people who ran it and might need to go. So they had parking spots. We had a place over here, right where Welcome Home was, for handicapped folk. People had the sticker, right? And then everyone, if you just got there, there'd be parking, but it was back, but it was only a quarter mile of a walk. Most rainbow gatherings were 20, 30-mile walk, right? And you could drop your stuff off right at Welcome Home. And at Welcome Home, I had made this gigantic arbor. And I had, I forgot what, it was a blooming flower, a tree. And there was a tree right there. I said, this is going to be Welcome Home. And I built this arbor and then wound it through. And as the spring went by, it had purple little flowers. And that whole arbor was covered in that. I had Welcome Home, right? And you went through it, and there was a Bliss Bunny camp. So anybody who just came off the road, never went to a rainbow gathering, didn't have any camping gear, go in there, and you could get your bowl, your cup, your spoon, a tarp, and then you'd go from there, right? That's what we hand out. And they had a ton of that stuff from FEMA. So, and instead of letting it rot in a warehouse, they kind of brought that up there. So, and then next to that, that's where we had, next to Bliss Bunny Camp, we had showers, right? And we had toilets, porta-johns that didn't smell terrible because they went into holding tanks that were like 20 yards over there. And the trucks could go right there, suck it out, right? And same with our water the water came in from a whole nother road to protect it, and it was high, so the gravity would feed everything. And so we had a back, and that's where supply was, back there, where the main meadow was, where Leavening Ovens was, where Trader Circle was, and the water was up here, and it was quite secure. And the closest thing to the water was CALM, Center for Alternative Living Medicine, because that road came right off that county road, and it was a great road. And so ambulances or any kind of emergency stuff could be there like that, right? And I, outside of what the line of the Iroquois Nation's boundary was, but that road was still there, and there was nothing else on it. We kind of had it cleared out, and the EMS guys put up their own little camp there, where they had a bus and they could pretty much almost deal with anything: heart attacks, bad injuries. Had an X-ray machine. I mean, they really had a nice little thing up there, their own power and their own water, and so they could keep an eye on the big tank up there, so no one could mess with it. And they were EMT, they were firemen, they were cops, right? And they were going there on their own nickel. And most of them were single, and then they'd take their uniforms off and then go mingle with the crowd and have a good time. So it was considered the best rainbow gathering, and it was a regional, and we had 20,000. So where the national was supposed to be, hardly anyone showed up, right? Just the hard cases. So it was, after that, and it was just unbelievable, right? And so it was decided that Nerf did such a great job, and Jimmy, basically, who did nothing, took all the credit. But everyone knew this guy forever and knew he was just a mouth, and everyone knew me forever and knew that I was the dude, right? So, okay, they did that. Everyone came in. Well, you got to do this. You got to Nerf. Like, we can't just have this amazing thing here, what you did, and then have Nerf be a total piece of shit. Oh, we can't do. You have to do this. And I said, okay, take the same team. We'll do it, right? Well, the kids from Ithaca were like, once is enough, right? But the kids from the college who were there, right, and some others who were, like Red Bear and Sundog and T-Ohm and Connie and Hey Lady and a few others, Big Bear. Red Bear was a little guy, and so, but he was fiery, great guy, and a great scholar, right? They were all great scholars, right? They'd all been college, half of them college professors, right? And otherwise their life experience, like, off the hook, right? So we were the scouts, and so we did a really good job of looking at everything in New England, Vermont, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and on the other side, even in the Appalachian, like near Ohio, near the Connecticut River, and a few other little places like that whole bioregion, right? That was Nerf. And Vermont was very difficult because it's like this place. It's like boom, 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 boom. It's like ridiculous mountains everywhere. And there's not really many national forests. And the ones that are like nature preserves. I mean, there are certain plants growing there. If you step on that plant, that's a $40,000 fine, right? So we're looking around, and we go to the presidentials, and we kind of go through them. And Notre Dame, I think, is a college there, and they're on one side of Moosilauke, right? And we kind of are looking around, and they're clear cutting the other side, right? And the clear cutting is pretty amazing because rainbow gathering, because they're making this big pad where these big trucks have to come to get the big logs, and they made an amazing road from I forgot what interstate it was, maybe 95, maybe 40, I'm not quite sure, but it was an interstate just like less than 20 miles right over there, right? And there were two, one of the main New Hampshire state roads were right there, right near, because Notre Dame, they're going to have a nice road, so it's just right there. And there was another one that went that way, right, like northwest and southeast. So, logistics, amazing, right? They've just cleared out this site, and it was a piece of property that Notre Dame owned. And so when the paper company came in, Notre Dame said, okay, we want this much money. They said, fine. And then they said, and you have to, environmentally, you can't just leave, you have to bulldoze all that stuff out and clear that. So we can plant trees there so it'll grow again. And the paper comes to, well, that's fine. If you grow these kind of trees that we use that will grow up and be perfect for us in about 15, 20 years, done deal. So that was the motif, right? So we're there while they're doing all this. And I say, this is perfect. Transportation, and there was tons of water. It was a big lake. There was a thing coming from the mountains. There were springs everywhere, water, transportation, and places to camp and meadows. This is it. And I'm seeing them drop off big bulldozers. And I asked the guy, so what are you going to do? And he said, well, we have to, and he showed me the plan. He goes, see, this is what, the contract is. I said, holy moly, this is, how many acres is this? He goes, 2,000 acres. I said, okay, sounds good to me. So I go over to Notre Dame, me and a lady who is, really amazing force of nature. She just kind of looks at you like this. And then smiles. So we are basically, I basically find, so where's President's place, right? And it's in that building, 3rd floor. Okay. And so who's the person who's like runs everything within student activities? Oh, that guy's the theater guy. Okay. Go over there. And who's the person who is like the sociologist, anthropologist, social worker department? And that lady over there. So, okay. So I have this book of photographs that I've shown you, and I'll probably show them again, of that gathering. I don't have them on hand right this minute, but I will show them to you again. And so, and the crew and I first go to the sociologist, anthropologist lady, right? And we basically we know her office, know her name. Everyone is like out looking at everything. And we have little walkie-talkies. That's the other thing, right? I learned the beauty of little walkie-talkies. And so they're all like out there talking to, in the quad and the this and the that. And I'm waiting to see, and I'm sitting out in a chair out in the hall looking into that office and seeing that's the head secretary, this is the staff, and there's the head department, she's in there, Dr. So-and-so, okay. And so I walk in and I say to and usually the head administrator and the secretary, it really is running everything. I said, so do you have a listing of your curriculum, of your courses and the books you read? And she, oh, sure we do. She hands it to me. And I'm like, I look like a college professor. I put on my college professor jacket, which was a herringbone sports jacket with the pockets, right? And I'm wearing my glasses. And so she goes, oh, sure. And I'm looking at her, oh, yeah, okay. And so has the, Dr. So-and-so, does she published? And she goes, yeah, those 2 books over there. I said, can I look at them? Oh, sure. So I do my Evelyn Wood speed reading thing and see where she's coming from. And then she walks in and there's nobody there except her, executive assistant. Everyone else is doing their job. It's not a problem, no one. And she goes, her, executive assistant goes, oh man, Ellen, you need to meet this guy. Here, have him read your palm, right? So she looks at me. I go, yeah, put the hand you write with up, right? So she does. I give her a reading. She said, how did you do that? I said, well, we can talk in your office. I'll tell you. And she goes, oh, please. And I come in and I have, what they're going to teach and her 2 books. I sit down and I put them on her desk. And she goes, I told her, yeah, I read your books. You read my books? I mean, you before you came? No, on the shelf I read them. They're both about 400 pages. I said, this thing, Evelyn Wood speed reading. You do that? I said, yeah. She goes, I tried that. I said, I'll show you how to do it. Anyway, so we're talking, and I'm saying, so I'm a psychosocial cultural forensic anthropologist. And she goes, wow. And then, I kind of go through, and she goes, and that's everything she does, right? And I handed her my business card, and she's looking at it. And I go, and I'm involved in a study, right? A cross-cultural ethnographic study of a baseline of what I think, and I read in your book here, you are looking for a baseline to be able to mediate the American public. She goes, that's right. I said, there's this group that I've been studying for years called the Rainbow Family. She said, oh, I've heard of those. I heard they're scumbags. I said, yeah, they are really they are white crosscut of everything, bourgeois in America. And so we start talking all about that. And I have this book of these pictures, and she's leafing through them. And I said, so I am the facilitator of their scouts, pick a site. And we were going to do a gathering in New England. And so we've hit every state. And where you are really seems to be perfect. She said, oh, we'd love to, host a rainbow gathering. And I said, so on the other side of the mountain, of Mount Musalaki over there, that's your property, isn't it? Yes. I said, we've just cleared it. We've studied it, and it would make a great site. And she goes, wow, that is good. So I said, so I have your blessing. And she goes, oh, more than blessing. I really want everyone here to get involved in this, right? This, we need to develop a protocol so we can do the same kind of demographic study you're doing. We just love to piggyback. I said, baby, I'm just going to hand it over to you. And she starts, looking at this, and she goes, so it looks like a protocol is something that the CFR or Brookings would use. I said, I used to work for those guys. So yeah, I use their protocols. Why shouldn't I? And you can, right? It'll look good for your cred. And she's going, she can't believe I am just doing this. Let me help you help this, right? So she's like, all in it. So I go, so the next person I want to talk to is your kind of person, the student activities person, who does things. Oh, yes, you should talk to them. I said, can you get them on the phone and invite them over here? And she goes, yeah, I'll see. Hey, can you come on? What are you doing? Nothing. Oh, I have a very interesting guy here. I think you meet him. Come on over. So they come over. We have a nice little discussion. And then the other person who's like the logistics person of that school, right? Who runs the police, runs the this, runs the that. I get him over there. So everyone thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread. And I said, so why don't you call up, because you're the head of this here. These other people are just ancillary, but they're very important. But we're having the meeting in your office. Why don't we call the president of the school and go over and visit them? And so she does, and she gives a great rap on what we are doing. I have so and so here, and I have Connie and Bob and Steve and everyone's here, and we're putting together a great adventure for Notre Dame. And so go over, talk to the president. He's like, wow, yes, this is it. Let's do this. This is yes, want to do this. We'll give you money. We'll anything you need to do this. I mean, we can do it. I mean, those guys are still up there with their heavy equipment. We can tell them how to. That's right. So it's about, again, before Christmas that we do this, right? And so we go there and we camp in, and they give us a place to stay, and we get to eat at the dining hall, and we're talking to the kids and giving lectures, and we're just having the most amazing time. And then I bring up my friends from New York, who are well-known artists and rainbowers, and they're talking about and telling stories, and we're having a great old time, right? Then, Christmas, New Year's break comes, and it's goes out into the Rainbow Gap. That we found the site. It's going to be Mount Musalaki, New Hampshire, blah blah blah, right? And so on or around March, Jimmy, what's his name, gets fed up his ass. Well, we haven't had counsel. Decide for yourself. I said, why? pretty much everyone in the Thanksgiving Council has been part of this. You're the only one because you're so busy running your business that, you know. Anyway, so basically what he decides was that the gathering is going to be there because it's Babylon. It's going to be in Vermont, right? And it's like, what? And we've already got the site all done. The roads, the water, the this, everything. The school has given us 10 grand and more money, and they're going to bring food in through their food services, you know, wholesale. I mean, this is going to be another great, amazing gathering. And so he does, you know, he says, no, we're going to do it in Vermont, and we're going to do it where we had this regional. And so the scouts and I, and we looked at that. I said, "What? It's terrible. There's this little teeny, you know, shoelace of a road going up the mountain, and there's you know logistics. There's no water. There's no septic. There's no parking. There's no camping, and it's a biological sanctuary. If you step on this kind of plant, that's a $20,000 fine. I mean, you're just cruising for a bruising with the police. This, everyone's on board, just like what happened in Ithaca." And I was trying to build a protocol that Rainbow Gatherings would follow. And he basically, you know, Stalinist obstructionized this. And at a certain point, we had already had a great time doing everything, you know, being the scouts and doing, you know, seed camp and doing all that. And we said, fine, good. Go have that gathering. And he goes, what are you talking about? Aren't you going to? I said, no, we've already done it. We're going to have a nice little party there and enjoy it. And those kids will be up there and it'll be quite nice. Anyway, that's kind of what we did. We kind of just unplugged from those morons, and they had anything to do it. You know, so they had advertised that the gathering was going to be in this place in Vermont, and they had totally disjointed the nose of all the authorities there. They didn't go to them and talk to them like we did and negotiate how to do it. And so basically it was like World War III, right? And it was just Jimmy, what's his name, and a few other, he got all these other tweakers, meth heads and biker Larrys and just the worst of the worst, what we call, and I don't call them that because these people who are alcoholics are good people, but A camp. And there's also goat camp, right? That's like the others, you know, all of the people in the Greenway would, like the purple kids would call the criminal A camp and the terrible, you know, anyway. And that's why Rainbow Gatherings are the way they are today. They have totally Babyloned the gathering and othered it. So anyway, we're there having a great time on Mount Moosilauke. And then we start seed camp, which is June, starts. It's not June yet. It's not even May yet. And we're having a great old time and having parties and all these people coming visiting. And it's just a great, and we're not calling the Rainbow family. It's just good old times. And so a number of Sun Bear and Emily and real old dear friends of the Rainbow Gathering. It's the only time I would ever go to Rainbow Gathering and see these old timers. And they're all mostly dead. So I don't miss any of them anymore. So they all said, no, Al, you have to go. Bring the crew, get the band, bring it there. People will die. That'll be the end of Rainbow Gathering. You want it to be the end of Rainbow? I didn't, because I didn't see the Rainbow Gathering. Rainbow Gathering was just a place that I could go hang with old friends, help people, be in service to Love's Co-Creation, and use it as a laboratory of my ethnographic studies of the bourgeois of America. So anyway, she said, please, and then the scouts and the CCAM kids who were having a great time, they're right. I mean, it would be terrible if we don't really go do our thing and snap this into shape. I mean, a lot of people will get arrested. A lot of people will die. A lot of people will be sick. A lot of people, it will be World War III. That'll be the end of Rainbow Gathering. You want to be blamed for the end of Rainbow? Want to be blamed for? Why would I be blamed? Because you're not doing it. That's good. Okay, because I like a challenge. So, and we've already scouted out. We know the issues, the problems, the whole thing. So, number one thing, and I met this lady. She owns a whole county. She runs it. She has on that little string. She has a gas station, general store, and a great restaurant. Right. So, me and the scouts and three of the Swami mommies, we went in. There was about 12 of us, and we were looking our best. And I knew her name, and I knew her where she'd be and what she'd be. So we cruise in. We sit down at one table. We have breakfast, and they had the best blueberry pancakes, right, and the best sausage, and the best pretty much everything. So we get a ton of everything, and comes out to be about $40. And I put down 4 Benjamins. Right? I said to the waitress, "These 2 are for you, and these 2 I want you to bring to your boss. I know she's back there. I know she's been watching us on that TV camera. So tell her to come out and have coffee with us." And so she comes out, and she comes out with this tray of unbelievable cinnamon. And we have just our stuff, and she got these to die for cinnamon buns. And I mean, they had good coffee, but she had, like Mr. Cubano coffee. And so she sits down, and we all introduce ourselves, and we said, "This is what's going on." And she goes, "I've heard it. You guys are the scouts. You guys are the Swami mommies, and you had this beautiful spot over in New Hampshire. I know exactly where it is. My family came from that part of the other side of the presidentials. I've been a lot in that college, so I know exactly the story." I said, "I know you know. That's why I'm talking to you, because you're the person in charge." And now all these chuckleheads are coming here. I tried everything I could. I mean, I offered them the most amazing site, and no, they want this, so they're going to come here. I'm sure if you know everything about this, you also know about what we did in Ithaca, how much money those people in Trumansburg. She goes, "Yes." I said, "You will make even more because you're the only one here." Anyway, so she goes, "I like the way you think. You are a real good capitalist." I said, "Well, I'm evolved capitalist. You're a real good capitalist. I'm an evolved capitalist." And she chuckled. I said, "So we need to meet the mayor. We need to," well, she goes, "I'm the mayor." I said, "We need to meet the county executive." I'm the county executive. Okay. Are you the head of the state highway patrol? He goes, "No." "How about the police department?" "My brother is." "Okay. So can you get him here?" She goes, "Yeah." So she gets on the phone. They show up, and about 40 minutes later, now it's time for lunch, and we have trout and some other yummy stuff, and she breaks out her wines, and we're starting to. So the 12 of us, we're like the apostles, and she's like, the head cheese, and she's got her gang. And so we basically work it out, right? So they bring the Forest Service guy there, they bring the Forest Service 6, meaning the police of the Forest Service, right? And again, he's part of the family, right? And so they all, next morning, we gather there because she goes, I have an RV camp over by the stream over there. And, here it is. There's nobody camping out there. It's not quite, snow season. It's not, we just finished tapping the maples. And so there's nobody really around. So, you guys camp out there. And you can, and until you get that going up there, you can be there. And she gives us this really great logging, like maple tapping truck. It was basically a Korean War version of a military deuce and a half. And so anyway, she goes, "You can take that. Like takes diesel, there's a pump there. Leave your vehicle. If you drive the vehicle up and down, you won't have a vehicle by July." So anyway, so we have made the connection, and Jimmy, what's his name, hasn't shown up at all, right? So we got it all going. It's all good. We go up there with the Forest Service guys. The problem is the water. The other problem, so I said, so we'll keep the camp, everything, because all those really delicate plants that we will. There is a little ridge here that you have to get over there. We will not make any paths near there. We will put signs saying "Don't go here," and so we do that, right? So we do that, and then then the season goes by, and Jimmy Boy shows up, and he's saying, "Well, we need to go." And no, we don't. He said, "Well, there's a big apple tree up. We have to have the meadow up there." I said, "No, we don't. That's where all those plants are. If you step on $20,000." Anyway, so we have a big thing, and he basically takes over from that, right? And so the powers that be down at that's Babylon down there. They don't like him, right? And so they say, "You come down here, we're going to arrest you. You won't like getting arrested by us. So just stay up there, be the king on the hill." And so the Sixes and everyone said, "Well, if they go over there, we're going to start ticketing and arresting people." I said, "Not a problem. If you got your job to do, but let us not. Everyone who obeys the law that stays over here, and I can probably keep 90% of everyone because we're making a nice camp for this, and and there was no water, so there was a guy who was a maple syrup farmer, and he had these big stainless steel tubs on wheels that he would bring in with horses, and he would tap them out. And he had all this pipe going, and they were like 2,000 gallons a piece. So he'd stick one there and have these trees oohing in there, and they'd take it out. So he had a bunch of these things. And so he said, there are two faces right here that are always wet. And if we put rubber mats on top of them and pull it up and the sun hits them and put a trough at the bottom, we can put that water into the stainless steel tanks. So we did. He had all of that. We did it. He had done it before. And that 2,000 gallon tank, from 9 p.m., which is when people stop using water, to 7 in the morning, it would fill up, right? And we had 3 tanks there, and one would fill up, and then we'd have a valve, and so we'd always kind of have 3 tanks filled up, right? And so we had a nice 2-inch line going from there about half mile down into the camp, where we had a number of 1-inch lines going off to kitchens, because we had done that in Ithaca, and so we were doing it there, but not as amazing as we did in Ithaca. But it was a way that people didn't really have to carry water miles, right? So there were about 10 spigots, and 4 kitchens had water, right? And so, and the 10 were sprinkled across the scene. And the average person who came was relatively not consciously aware I am, or conscious intent I am, because they just kept throwing garbage everywhere and hurting themselves and getting into fights and being drunk and doing drugs. Because Rainbow Gathering is supposed to be a spiritual event. And so that started to happen in Seed Camp, and people were starting to make camps up in that land where there was, and we put up signs, "Don't go up here." And we put little fences around these plants that if you stepped on them, that was 20 grand. And the feds put up cameras, right? So, and at Welcome Home, we had all kinds of maps of the site, and don't go here. But Jimmy said, well, this is where we're going to have the meadow, right? So anyway, as we get close to kicking it off, which is about the 29th of June. 4th of July is the big thing, but the big influx of people. And I told everyone, I will help seed camping this. I will help negotiating with the good people down at the bottom of the hill. But I won't do anything else, right? And I will do my little kitchen magician thing, and I will kind of be a calm guy, but I'm not like I normally am. I'm not going full on. I'm not running. I'm not being a Shantasina. I'm not going to council. I'm not doing anything. Just going to have a good time. And I'm going to be my happy negotiating self, right? And so everyone was, thank you, Al, right? So I'm sitting around this fire. It's like 1 hour, 49 minutes. And how much time do we got? Like 27 minutes. I can finish up this story. So I do, so I normally would go to bed or go to calm for the evening, and I'd have a little healing temple at calm so I could sleep, right? And only be woken if I was needed. But I had my real isolated where no one knew where I was. I had my little radio, and I also had another little more public space, and that's kind of what I had. So, but once the gathering got going by about the 28th, I was spending most of the time at night, going from fire from camp to camp, listening to music, smoking bones, drinking whatever they got, because everyone's drinking now. Normally, back in the day, there was no alcohol. I mean, if you wanted to drink, you had to be in a camp outside the garden, right? So everyone's drinking, everyone's doing everything. It's not very spiritual. So I'm basically having a good time, and there are no real big, and all whatever is in council, I couldn't care less. Whatever the brouhaha, I couldn't. Whatever's on the green line, I couldn't care. Nick at Night, don't go to, right? All the bourgeois crap, I just go to the camps, right? And I would spend that witching hour between, if I was still awake, between 3 and 6 over at a camp, just to keep an eye on them so they wouldn't hurt themselves, right? And they knew me for years. I was not one of those, the terrible A camp. I would go in and take care of them and be there for them and listen to them. And they hurt themselves, so I would take care of them. So anyway, because if you were drunk and you showed up at a calm, they were not happy. So anyway, so I was more the MASH guy. I was mobile. So I didn't do surgery. I could if I had to, but I didn't. So anyway, I'm sitting around this fire and we're telling stories, and I tell this story about Canterbury. And this girl goes, are you out of the bells? The 3 a.m. bells? And I go, what? I went to Canterbury. I said, no, it's a boys' school. I said, no, it's changed. It's not like what it was. You changed it. I mean, they got rid of the slaves. They got rid of the fagging. They got rid of all the torment that was going on there. You changed that. I said, well, I left, before the end of the year, and they were trying to kill me. And I got out alive, and I never had anything to do with that place ever again. And so she goes, yeah, man, you are like a legend. You are more than a legend. And she was telling me all of these what I did. She was telling everything. So I just was starting to tell people about it, and she told the story. And there's nothing better than to have someone to tell your story that knows it better than you do, that has been indoctrinated with the myth, right? And so I was the myth, the legend in the life, in the pink. Anyway, she's telling a story, and the guy she's with is like kind of shrinking, and she gets up and she gets up and she's really boisterous and she's acting out the story, and she kind of snuggles up next to me. And I just kind of smile, and then somebody tells the story and passes another bone, and she takes out her. She's a little bit of but she's a high end, but she has Royal Crown in her pack. So, boy, I like Royal Crown. So we get up, and I said, so do you want to see where my healing temple? I've heard about it. No one knows where it is. So let's go there. So that was it. She was my girlfriend. And we basically decided she would wear my clothes. I would wear her clothes. Right. So in essence, she never wore any clothes, and I just wore her underpants. Right. And so that's how and on site, you could do that. You could walk around kind of naked. So we were the naked couple, right? And I was always kind of, if anyone knows me, I'm always saying, see the shirt and the pants, And I don't really. I have my own fashion statements to make. So anyway, we become it. We are the it couple, and she goes, and she's very attentive, very smart. She went to Vassar and the other women's college that's at Columbia. And her mom was a big wig in the Justice Department, so she's supposed to become a lawyer. So she studied law, but she's doing this instead because her mom is super rich, right? So anyway, so we're really having a great old time. And so by the third day, I said, so are you through with Rainbow Food? And she goes, yeah, I'm and she's already gone through all her little nibblers that she had left. So let's go down the main gate, and here's here's one of my shirts. Put that on, and I'll put a shirt on too, and I'll still wear your underpants, and we'll. So we're wearing our kicks, and I'm wearing her underpants, and she puts on a pair of her own underpants, and she puts on a big shirt, and she's quite the curvy girl. She's very athletic, and she's, like I said, in her early 30s, maybe late 20s, and she could have even been 24. I'm not quite sure, but she was out of college and she'd gone to grad school, and then was in law school, and then quit that, right? And was finding herself, and so we basically, go down the main gate. You're going downtown, yeah. So we hitch a ride down to the gas station, get out, and I go, and there's the chief of police is there. He's got his own trailer for his boys, and he introduced me. Well, I know all of them already, and he goes, "Well, you kind of disappeared." Yeah, well, I did my thing with you guys. I did my best, and then Jimmy, what's his name, took over, and he's like doing whatever, and I don't care. I'm definitely. And they said, "Well, we need some intelligence." I said, "Well, it's just nothing bad. I'm trying to keep everyone. I mean, you know what's up there. The Sixers are all up in that field. They know what's going on. You have your people where, I mean, you've got to give them better shoes. I mean, everyone knows the police. Everyone's half barefoot or on kicks or flip flops, and you guys come in with leather shoes. I mean, it's pretty easy to spot you guys. But the bottom line is no big deal. Everything is just moving. But it's like a clunky rainbow gathering. No big deal. Nothing's happening. You have your EMS guy down here. There's been no real things. Right, da da da. I said, what about on your side? I said, well, we have reports that this cult is coming from California, and they're going to try to kill as many rainbows as they can. I said, oh, that's nice. You're gonna take care of us? And they said, well, they're driving in a tan Winnebago with California plates, and we were going to stop whatever tan Winnebago. There's only one road up there, so yeah. But if they get by us, they get by us. It's here. Good luck with that. I said, well, I'm not a Shantasina, so I don't have to worry. And so anyway, we're having a beautiful breakfast, and she's just enamored by all these guys in uniforms, And they're kind of enamored with her with just wearing one of my T-shirts and her underpants and flip flops. But no one says anything. Oh, you need, no, they're like, and the lady who owns everything and everyone, she's, oh, my son is back, and her son is over there working there. And she kept saying, oh, if I only had a son like you. And I would talk to guys. She doesn't mean it. Of course you mean it. I said, but I know you are a good man and doing a good thing. You've got kids and they're going to school and you're doing a great job. So I'd like to. So because everyone else just takes advantage of it. So anyway, but that's what a diplomat does. It doesn't pick sides, right? So that's why everything that's in this world right now is like, because it's only one side, Mr. Global only, So anyway, so we have a nice little things, and she makes up a nice little go-go bag of like spare ribs that she's made, mashed potato, lots of food in Tupperware things, and a nice bag. She goes, honey, do you have because she has Army Navy supply. She has everything, and she goes, do you have any camping gear, sweetie? She goes, not really. She goes, do you have a pack? You need a pack. So she makes a whole nice, with all this kind of yummy food and flashlights and some tampons and everything this young lady would need. And a really nice pack. And here's a gift. Because you're with this nice guy, I'm giving you this nice gift. He's like he's my son. I wish I had. She keeps saying, this is my son. I wish I had. So she's got to know all the police, everyone in charge. So no one's gonna lay a finger on her. And she's with me, the dude. So, so we are, so we have a nice little time with them. And we, go down and we flag down a car that's going up. So we get a ride up there. We go to Kitty Village, see how they're doing. We go over to Loving Oven, see how they're doing. we first kind of drop off her pack in my, and I made that her camp. The one downtown is her camp, right? So we drop her stuff, that pack there, and the other foods that my pseudo mom, my boss mom, gave me us, and because she calls her dear too. So anyway, we just stroll around to the different kitchens. I bring my hammock. I work on a few people here and there. We talk to folks. We go down to Trading Circle. We have some things. And people gift us a lot. And we are the it couple. This is now about day number 5, and we are the it couple. And I got her hooked up with the Swami mommies because she's a Swami mommy in training, and we hang out at the gay camp, and she loves them. And because I love those people, they used to be called the fairy camp. They still were, but they were getting to be a little more rainbowish, LGBTQ. I mean, that's way before that, but they were heading in that direction. They weren't just fairies anymore. So anyway, it was, and we would go to a couple of kitchens before the evening meal, and we would help wherever they needed help. Firewood, tending the fire, getting water. But most of those kitchens had sinks, and it was doing good. And it wasn't what it was like, wasn't even July yet. It was like maybe the 30th or maybe the 1st. And so that was part, instead of doing that, and sometimes we would go out, because one of the hardest thing of a kitchen is spooling out the food, because you got 20,000 people there, all got their bottle, give me food. They're all hungry. So I would be the comedian, right? And there was another guy named Vernon Supreme, and he and I used to do, dinner we would do a comedy skift, and he had his big boot that he'd wear on his head, and we would collect money, and we could do pretty good. We would at least make $2,000. Sometimes, one time on one 4th of July in Pennsylvania, we made $20,000. A couple of people threw in checks. We had a banking account, so we could do that. So, so that was our basic thing. So we did that, and then we went, that evening after Maine. We never went to Nick at Night or to any, Las Vegas or to the main circle. We would just go to little circles and listen to people's stories and people playing music and smoking bones. And then we would, go and cuddle. We go up to the, either to her, in-town camp, depending on how late and how tired we were. And that's when we go to the in-town camp. Depending on whether it was a busy night at Com, sometime we'd go over there and be in my healing temple there. Most nights we would go up to this place that no one knew where I was, and you couldn't hear the noise of stuff, and we could just be in memorial bliss and enjoy our company. And so anyway, it was turning out to be quite a nice gathering. I thought it was going to be like, God, awful, unbelievably terrible. And but still, I went down to Shantasina and said, hey, guys, there's allegedly have you heard the poop? And what poop? That there's a cult coming to kill all the rainbows? No, we never heard that. I said, you're going to be at Bus Village and at Parking Central. Look for a tan Winnebago from California. Right? Keep an eye out for that. And, get on your little radios, call, because I gave my, the radio that the Sixes gave me. I kept that at Com, right? You call Com, have them call the Sixes right away. The Sixes were down with Com, right, in Kitty Village. And they just really, didn't like people like Jimmy, what's his name, and the other clowns that were part of that. They didn't mess with the Alps or the angry kids, just the road dog morons. So anyway, it was unusual thing. So we woke up one morning, and we had basically that night. So there is the meadow, there is the drum circle, and then there is the dance circle, and then there is like the shamanic dance circle, where you would dance into it. We said you'd have to be there. So back in the day, this guy who was Mayor Bob, he and he was also he had started out as Hare Krishna, and then he got into Mayor Bob. And he really started out. I knew him back in the day, as, back in the Catholic Church. First a priest, then Hare Krishna, then Mayor Baba. And he was a great guy. He was a saint. And so we started that. I think it was West Virginia. So anyway, so we danced the night away until the sun came up, and then there was a place I knew. Her, and I, and a few other people went up to this really beautiful, beautiful spot. That was like heaven. It was like way up there, and watched the sun come over this mountain, and it was quite the spiritual experience. And then I had my hammock. I kind of tied it up. We kind of snoozed for from about 6 in the morning till about 8:30, and we were bright-eyed Bushy-Dale, and we walked on down to let's go have breakfast downtown. Go see Mom. So we did, and we got there on at the main gate, and the cops are there. Shantacina's there. A Camp is there, and this Winnebago pulls up and doors open. Hey, can you give us a ride down to gas station? Oh yeah, sure. So we get in, and there's her, me, the driver, this table, 2 people with long blonde hair, and then a couch, and 2 biker tweakers I know. They're just scum of the earth. And a kid in the back with a pack, and he's like really tweaking, right? So I'm just kind of looking at all this and just, basically leaning on my sweetie's soft breast, and she's cooing on my neck, and we're just, we've just been in cooing central, so we're still in coo zone, and so this guy screams in the back. I'm broken out of my coo zone. And I go, what's up? I don't get up. I said, what's there's policemen back here? I said, of course, it's a rainbow guy. There's, tons of cops. And I go, it's a small road. He's behind us because he can't pass. Just go, stop it. So I go back to try to get back to get my coo zone back on. And she's cooing with me. And then he really screams, that's what? And they got their blue lights blinking. And I said, oh, I get up and I look. I said, well, yeah. They want us to stop, but there's nowhere to stop on this road. We'll stop down there. It'll be no problem. Don't worry about it. And then he goes, and I go, what is your problem? And he goes, I got 100 sheets of acid here. I have 20,000 hits. And I go, well, that's not good. Well, just cool down. Be relaxed. I know these people. I'll just tell them that there's no problem and you can go on your way. Not a problem. And then I go to the driver, the Winnebago. I said, buddy, where are you from? And he goes, California. And I see the insignia right there above his head. It says Winnebago. And I said, what color is this thing? He goes, tan. I go, oh, this ain't going to be good. So I go, okay, everybody, relax. And then the tweaker, the biker scum, what are you talking about? We have to attack the police. I said, attack the police? What are you, nuts? I mean, there's 5 cop cars back there. They all got machine guns. Have you seen what they got down where this road hits the county road? They got hundreds of police down there, right? No. I will take care of this. Well, you think you're such a big guy. You're the owl. And because I know this guy. He's just such he's like one of Jimmy's friends. He's Jimmy Go-Go Pop. So, and then the other tweaked out meth heads are like, and I said, Otherwise, no, I don't even go there. It's just, okay, I'm here to serve. So, we kind of get down and they have this big bulldozer blocking the road. They have all these vehicles. There's maybe 60 to 200 policemen, all in kind of riot gear, all with shotguns and M16s, right? And I hear this speak, all right, you and the bus, come out. I said, everyone, get on the floor. Do not look out the window. Don't make any sudden moves, right? Turn the engine off, open the door, right? Open up all the windows, right? And get on the floor. So I come out and I take everything off except my girlfriend's underpants. And I come out of the bus with my hands like this. I come out, I get out right in front. There's nothing to hide. I have nothing on except my girlfriend's Mickey Mouse underpants. I mean, they had little minis on it and hearts. And I started saying the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I mean, really loud. I was using an outside voice, projecting it. And so everyone is just, their guns are lowering and they're just like, I don't say anything, right? And then all of a sudden I hear this from, all right, and it clicks of the microphone of the speaker. Ow! Ow, what are you doing? And there is the highway patrol guy and the sheriff, right? And they all come down and they kind of come down and pick me up because I was a pretty big boy then. I was like 250, 60. I'm not swarthy, 110, I mean 190. I'm like between 195 and 210. I really weighed myself in a month or so. So anyway, they they kind of picked me up and said, "What's wrong? You sorry?" And I said, "Yes, I know, California, and Winnebago." And they were going, "Everyone stand down. Everyone go back to your cars. Everyone put your guns down. Put them away. Put them in the trunks. I don't want to see a gun." That's what the sheriff said. That's what the guy said. And so those four guys, Sweetie, and she knows them all, and me, go to the bus. And so they said, "So what's up with these guys? They're just leaving." And so they said, "Okay, you can leave." So the bus guys goes to close the door. And then that's when the guy with the bag leaves. Around, and he runs off. And you see in the bag all these sheets of paper on the floor and down. He was trying to eat them. He consumed maybe 1,000 hits of acid, right? I look at him, "You know him?" I said, "I don't know any of these people." But it's only because he's not my friend. I don't really like, he's like, and he starts cursing at the cops because, "What should we do with him?" I said, "Well, whatever you want." Anyway, so the sheriff, not everybody saying lieutenant, but the chief of police, the sheriff gets us, and so basically the kid with the acid, they decide it's just him, and so they pick up all his acid, and he's escorted over to the medical guys, and he ends up in 20 and then the tweakers and they were all biker tweakers, and they start cursing and spitting at the cops, and those guys, they 6 of the biggest, burliest highway patrol guys and sheriff guys, and get them, put them in an unmarked black van, and never to be seen again. And then the sheriff, the head 6, the head highway patrol guy, and the other police official say, "Oh, we're so sorry. What can we do? What can we do?" And the highway patrol guy goes, "Why don't we take them into Putney and put them up in the Holiday Inn? That's where we are. We got a whole bunch of rooms that we still haven't used." because the gathering hasn't even started, right? It's not the fourth yet. It's like maybe the first, if that. And so, and this is when the crowd is really starting to show up. And so, my girlfriend goes, and because yeah, we can put you up in a room with a jacuzzi. She goes, jacuzzi? She goes, yeah, you can get real food, real food. Anyway, so we get in the car. We drive into Putney. They put us in the Holiday Inn, and then they take us to Sears, where they buy us clothes, right? Because I've been wearing her underpants for the last 3 weeks, and the first 2 hours, I'm just wearing, girls' underpants with Minnie Mouse and hearts on it, and with flip flops, and she's just wearing my big shirt and kicks, and so they take us to Sears and outfit us so nicely, and then they take us out to a really fine restaurant for dinner, and then we go back to the Holiday Inn where they have the bar, and somebody singing at a piano bar, and me and Honey Bun are just slow. I mean, the guy's just playing every slow humping song he knew, and the police were like looking on us, like we're so proud of our children. And don't they look nice? They clean up really good, and so we stay there. Next day they go, so you want to go back? And she goes, no, I want to go swimming. She had got herself a bathing suit, so we are swimming, and there's nobody in there. It's still like July. There's not really a lot of people, so we're like humping away in the pool, and no problem. Nobody cares, right? Everyone who is important, owns anything, is like these guys' friends. So yeah, we could so we're just having the best of times, and then we're going into the hippie part of Putney, and I used to live there. So we go to what's the name of that co-op? The Putney Co-op, I guess. And go upstairs, and there's still some people I know, and then they take us out to where my where we started the ashram, and my master Asher K, he's still freaking alive. It's 2000 and whatever it is, maybe no, it was 88. That's right. So it was 90. It was 92, give or take, right? So he's still there, and so we spent a night with him, and he tells her stories about me, and she's like, the myth is even bigger. so we. Oh, I gotta go. I'm in the red zone. I'll pick this story up later. Okay, I love you guys. Remember, some comments down here, some more thumbs up. Tell your friends. That's the end of this story is a good one. I will tell it tomorrow, whatever day it is. So I'm going to sign off here. Love you guys.